My name is Grace Anderson, and for 15 years, I was the family disappointment. While my sister collected Harvard degrees and six-figure job offers, I spent my days teaching finger painting to 5-year-olds. Last week at her graduation party, my parents handed her the keys to a Tesla and the deed to a $13 million Manhattan penthouse, right in front of 200 guests. They called her the only success story of the family. I stood in the back, invisible as always, until a stranger in a charcoal suit approached me with an envelope. "Your grandfather knew the truth," he whispered. What happened next left my entire family speechless. Before we begin, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let me tell you how one single piece of paper changed everything. The Anderson family penthouse overlooked Central Park from the 68th floor. Every morning, I'd watch my parents sip coffee from Waterford crystal cups while planning Isabella's future at that $50,000 walnut dining table. The Monet original above the fireplace, the real one, not a print, cost more than I'd make in 20 lifetimes as a public school art teacher. Meanwhile, my studio apartment in Queens had water stains on the ceiling and a radiator that clanged like a ghost with anger issues. While Isabella carried her mess bags that cost more than my yearly rent, I hauled my art supplies in a canvas tote I'd painted myself back in college. The contrast wasn't subtle, and my parents made sure everyone knew it. "Grace teaches at PS 47, my mother would tell her friends at the country club, her tone dropping like she was confessing a family crime. "Isabella just made law review at Harvard," she'd add with pride. The comparison always came in pairs, like salt and pepper, except one was Himalayan pink salt, and the other was just dirt. But here's what they never understood. I loved my job. Every morning, 23 second graders would run up to hug me, their faces lighting up the moment they saw the art room door. The art supplies I bought with my own money sat stacked in the corner of my classroom. Their parents, immigrants, single mothers, fathers working 3 jobs, would thank me with tears in their eyes when their children brought home paintings that made them feel seen. My parents never asked about my work. They never knew about the awards tucked in my desk drawer, or the letters from parents saying I'd changed their children's lives. To them, success meant stock portfolios and summer homes in the Hamptons. Still, I went to every family dinner. Every celebration, not for them, but for my grandfather, the only one who ever looked me in the eye and said, "Grace, you're going to change the world." Just not the way they expect. I had no idea how right he was. Isabella graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law last week. The dean himself shook her hand, and White & Case offered her a starting salary of $215,000 before she even threw her cap in the air. Her Patek Philippe watch, a graduation gift from Dad, cost more than my annual salary of $42,000. She was 28, 4 years younger than me, and already owned an investment portfolio that would make most CEOs weep with envy. Her LinkedIn profile read like a Wall Street fairy tale. Harvard undergrad, Harvard Law, summer associate at 3 Fortune 500 companies, published twice in the Yale Law Journal. Mine simply said, art teacher at PS 47, believes every child is an artist. That week, our family group chat became a shrine to Isabella's glory. Photos of her in cap and gown, screenshots of congratulations from senators and CEOs, even a video of her giving the valedictorian speech. My message, "Congratulations, Bella," got a single heart emoji. Nothing more. What the chat didn't show were the 8 National Education Awards sitting in my desk drawer, the 3 Teacher of the Year plaques, or the art therapy program I built from nothing, a program now serving 500 children with disabilities across 3 boroughs. But I never mentioned any of that. In my family's currency, those things were worthless. The invitation to Isabella's graduation party arrived on ivory cardstock, so thick it could double as a weapon. Celebrating Isabella's extraordinary achievement, it read in gold foil. At the bottom, in my mother's handwriting, Grace, please dress appropriately. I wore my best dress, a simple black sheath from Target. Isabella, of course, would be in custom Versace. Some things never change, or so I thought. Why can't you be more like Isabella? That question followed me through childhood, like a shadow with teeth. When I brought home an A- in calculus, Isabella had already skipped 2 grades. When I won the state art competition at 16, Isabella had just been accepted to Harvard at 17. My achievements were footnotes in the grand story of Isabella Anderson, future Supreme Court Justice, as my father liked to predict after his 3rd scotch. My mother had perfected the art of selective introduction. This is Isabella, our Harvard law student, she'd beam, diamonds catching the light. Then, almost as an afterthought, oh, and Grace, she teaches. That pause, before teaches, stretched like a void where disappointment lived. I chose teaching because of Mr. Yamamoto, my high school art teacher. He found me crying once in the supply closet after another, "Why can't you be more like her?" lecture. He said something I've never forgotten. Some people build skyscrapers, Grace. Others build souls. Guess which one lasts longer? I wanted to build souls. My parents wanted me to build portfolios. The family photo wall said it all. Isabella's accomplishments filled an entire section. Diplomas, newspaper clippings, photos with governors. My side had one photo, my college graduation, half hidden behind Isabella's framed Harvard acceptance letter, mounted in gold. 10 years of therapy taught me to stop chasing their approval. But knowing something in your mind and feeling it in your bones, those are 2 very different things. So I kept showing up, kept smiling, kept pretending their words didn't carve tiny pieces out of my heart. From the corner of the St. Regis ballroom, I noticed a man in a charcoal suit watching me. He'd been there since I arrived, and something about his gaze felt knowing, like he was waiting for something. The ballroom glittered with the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. 200 guests sipped Dom Perignon from crystal flutes, while beluga caviar made rounds on silver platters that probably cost more than my car. Every corner whispered extravagance, from the 30-foot silk-draped ceilings to the orchid centerpieces flown in from Thailand that very morning. My father clinked his champagne glass with a gold pen. Of course it was gold. And the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we're here to celebrate the only success story that matters in the Anderson family." He raised his glass toward Isabella, who stood in her custom Versace gown, looking as if she'd been carved from marble and ambition. My daughter, the Harvard Law graduate, the only success story, singular. I wasn't even a footnote anymore. I was an eraser. My mother glided through the room, her voice carrying over the classical quartet. "Isabella starts at White & Case next month," she told the mayor's wife. Then she caught sight of me near the shrimp display. "Oh, that's Grace," she said lightly. "She teaches finger painting to children." The way she said finger painting made it sound like I was selling drugs to toddlers. A woman in Chanel asked what grade I taught. Before I could answer, my mother interjected, "Elementary." "Very elementary." The woman's smile turned pitying. "How nice that you found something you can do." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "Don't leave early tonight. Your grandfather left you more than memories." I looked up, scanning the crowd. The man in the charcoal suit raised his champagne glass slightly, a gesture so small, only I noticed. My father was back at the microphone. "And now," he said, "for the real surprise of the evening, Isabella." His voice boomed across the ballroom. "Success deserves rewards." He pulled a small velvet box from his tuxedo pocket, and the room collectively leaned forward. "The keys," he said, smiling, "to your new Tesla Model S Plaid." The crowd gasped. Someone even applauded. The key fob glinted beneath the chandeliers, a $130,000 car for a 28-year-old who already owned a BMW. Isabella floated to the microphone, her smile perfectly rehearsed from years of being the chosen one. "Thank you." "Daddy," she said sweetly, holding up the keys like a trophy. "The photographer, yes, my parents had hired one just for this, captured every angle. But that's not all," my mother chimed in, joining them on stage. From her clutch, the Hermès one, naturally, she produced an envelope. It wasn't just any bag. It was a $30,000 Birkin, a bag that could feed a small country. "Inside this envelope," she announced proudly, "is the deed to your new home, a $13 million penthouse in Tribeca. 4 bedrooms, a private terrace, and a view of the entire city you're about to conquer." $13 million. For perspective, that amount could fund my school's entire art program for the next century. It could pay for therapy for thousands of children who could never afford it otherwise. Instead, it would house one person who already had everything. Isabella hugged them both as the photographer went wild. The crowd erupted in applause, each clap like a hammer against my skull. I stood in my corner, invisible as wallpaper, gripping my champagne flute so tightly I feared it might shatter. "This Tesla is just the beginning of what you deserve. Isabella," my father declared into the microphone. His words carried through the air, across the room, across the years of comparison, across every moment he'd looked through me as if I were made of glass. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the man in the charcoal suit move, closer, not obviously, just a slow drift through the crowd, until he was near enough to hear. He wasn't watching. Isabella's triumph. He was watching me. My phone buzzed again. "The real show starts in 5 minutes. Don't sign anything. Sign anything?" What could that mean? "Grace!" My mother's voice sliced through my thoughts. "Come here, please. We need you on stage." Isabella held the microphone like a scepter, her Harvard law ring flashing under the chandeliers. "I want to thank everyone for celebrating this moment with us," she began, her voice sweet, honey-coated with thorns. "Success isn't easy. It takes dedication, ambition, and the courage to reach for more than..." She paused, her eyes locking on mine. "Finger paintings and participation trophies." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Harsh." Another muttered, "But true." "Some people," Isabella continued, "are content with mediocrity. They find comfort in small lives, small dreams, small paychecks, and that's fine. The world needs people to teach children their ABCs, while others of us argue cases before the Supreme Court." My cheeks burned. 200 pairs of eyes tried not to look at me, while absolutely looking at me. A woman in pearls leaned toward her husband and whispered, "Is that the teacher, sister?" "Poor thing." "But tonight isn't about those who settle," Isabella said, raising her champagne glass. "It's about excellence, about proving that with the right mindset, the right education, and the right priorities, anyone can..." "Excuse me?" The voice came from the back. The man in the charcoal suit stepped forward, and the crowd parted for him like he carried invisible authority. He was older than I'd first thought, maybe 75, with silver hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen decades of secrets. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "My name is Harold Whitman. I was your grandfather's attorney for 40 years. My father's face went pale. My mother's champagne glass trembled. "I have something that needs to be addressed tonight," Harold continued, pulling a leather envelope from his jacket. "Before any more announcements are made." Isabella's smile froze. "I don't think," she started. "Oh, but I do think," Harold interrupted smoothly. "In fact, your grandfather insisted." My father recovered quickly. He always did when his authority was threatened. Mr. Whitman, this is a private family celebration. Whatever business you have can wait until... Actually, Harold said, his voice sharpening, it can't, especially considering what you're about to do. My father's jaw tightened. He knew something. They both did. My parents exchanged a look that lasted just a heartbeat too long. As I was saying, my father turned back to the microphone, speaking faster now. Isabella will also be inheriting the entirety of the Anderson family estate, the company, the properties, all of it. She's proven herself capable of managing substantial assets. The room erupted again in applause and congratulations. Isabella glowed. My mother smiled so wide her Botox almost cracked. Grace, on the other hand, my father continued, and my stomach dropped, simply doesn't have the capacity for such responsibility. Teaching finger painting to children is noble, I suppose, but it hardly qualifies someone to manage millions. Some people build empires, others finger paint. The words hit like blows. And then my mother joined in. Which is why, she said, producing another document from her designer bag, we need Grace to sign this waiver of inheritance rights. It's what's best for everyone. The crowd fell silent. Even for the Upper East Side, this was too much drama. Come on up, Grace, my father said. It wasn't a request. I walked to the stage on legs that barely held me. 200 guests watched as I climbed the 3 steps. The woman in Chanel whispered something about family business being so awkward. Someone else muttered about knowing one's place. My mother held out the waiver and a Mont Blanc pen. Just sign it, sweetheart, she said softly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Harold Whitman stepped onto the stage. I really must insist you stop, he said firmly. You have no authority here, my father snapped. Harold smiled, not kindly. Your father would disagree. And since he's the one who actually built this empire you're so eager to redistribute, I'd say his opinion matters. The pen felt heavy in my hand. 200 eyes stared. Isabella's smile could have cut glass. The waiver sat on the podium, its legal language blurring through tears I refused to let fall. Sign it. Grace, my mother hissed, her voice low enough that the mic wouldn't catch it. For once in your life, do the right thing. The right thing for them meant disappearing. This is what's best for everyone. Grace, Isabella said into her microphone, her tone cool and rehearsed. You know you can't handle this kind of responsibility. Remember when you couldn't even manage your college loans without crying? Someone in the crowd actually laughed. My hand trembled toward the signature line. Grace Anderson. I need you to know something before you sign that document. Harold Whitman's voice rang out, clear and sharp. My father stepped between us. Mr. Whitman, you're trespassing. Security? I'm here as the executor of William Anderson's estate, Harold said, louder now. Your grandfather's real estate, the one your parents have been hiding for 10 years. The ballroom went so quiet. I could hear my mother's pearls clicking against each other as she trembled. That's impossible, my father said, but his voice cracked. My father's will was simple. Everything came to me. The will you filed was simple, Harold corrected. The actual will, the one I kept in 3 separate safety deposit boxes, with video testimony and multiple witnesses, is anything but simple. He reached into his leather envelope and pulled out a thick document. The gold seal of New York State caught the light. I have something you all need to see. Harold cleared his throat and announced to the room, something that changes everything about tonight's announcements. Isabella grabbed for the waiver. Just sign it now, Grace. Whatever this is, it doesn't matter. But my hand stopped moving, because Harold Whitman was looking at me with my grandfather's eyes. Kind, knowing, and absolutely certain. If you've ever felt undervalued for choosing, Purpose over profit. Please like this video. What happens next will change how you see success. Subscribe for more stories about quiet, justice, and the power of patience. I looked at the pen in my hand, then at the faces around me. Isabella, radiant in her certainty. My parents, impatient and dismissive. The crowd, waiting for the teacher to accept her place at the bottom of the family hierarchy. For a moment, I almost signed it. 15 years of being the disappointment weighed on my shoulders like a lead blanket. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was meant for small things, small dreams, small impacts. Maybe teaching children to paint rainbows wasn't worth as much as arguing corporate mergers. Sometimes loving your family means letting go, I said quietly, the microphone catching my words. My mother relaxed. Isabella smirked. My father nodded approvingly. I positioned the pen above the signature line. One signature. And I'd never have to sit through another comparison. Another, why can't you be more like Isabella? Another family dinner where my work was treated like a hobby. The pen touched paper. Your grandfather wrote you letters, Harold said suddenly. 23 letters over 10 years. Your parents returned every single one, unopened. My hand froze. What letters? I asked, looking at my parents. What is he talking about? My mother's face had gone white under her foundation. It doesn't matter now, she said. Oh, but it does, Harold replied, pulling out a stack of aged, yellowed envelopes. William Anderson spent the last decade of his life documenting something very specific, something about his granddaughters. He held up the document again, the real will. Before you sign anything, Grace, you should know what your grandfather knew. You should know why he called you the one who would change everything. The pen slipped from my fingers, clattering against the podium. Show me, I said. You have no right. My father's voice thundered across the ballroom, his face flushing red. Security! Remove this man immediately. 2 guards started forward, but Harold raised the document high. I'd think very carefully before you do that. Interfering with the lawful execution of a will is a felony. Everyone in this room is now a witness. The guard stopped. The crowd murmured. Someone was already recording this on their phone. My mother tried a different tactic, her voice turning syrupy sweet. Mr. Whitman, surely this can wait until Monday. We're having a family celebration. A celebration, Harold echoed. Where you're coercing your daughter to sign away her inheritance rights? His eyebrows lifted. How festive. There's nothing to inherit, my father snapped. I'm the sole beneficiary of my father's estate. The will was read 10 years ago. A will was read, Harold corrected calmly. The one you filed, after destroying the original. Or rather, after you thought you destroyed it. The ballroom gasped collectively. Isabella grabbed my father's arm. Daddy, what is he talking about? Your grandfather was many things, Harold continued, addressing the room. But stupid wasn't one of them. He knew his son well enough to keep multiple copies of his actual will, notarized, witnessed, video, recorded, ironclad. Then he turned to me. He also knew his granddaughters, both of them, and he made provisions accordingly. My mother was already dialing frantically on her phone. Lawrence, yes, we need you at the St. Regis immediately. Bring the files on. She stopped, noticing everyone watching. Just come. Calling your lawyer? Harold asked mildly. Good, he'll want to see this. Especially Article 7. What's Article 7? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Harold smiled, the first warm expression I'd seen from him. The part your grandfather called the Truth Clause. The part that explains why he spent 10 years watching both his granddaughters from afar. Documenting everything. My father lunged for the document, but Harold stepped back, surprisingly agile for his age. Shall we read it together? Harold asked. Or would you prefer to tell them yourself? What you've been hiding. He opened the document, its pages crisp despite their age.